This is the Fantasy Roadshow.
Yo. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Roadshow. We are your hosts. My name is Truck. This is Kulz. And then down there, we got Shane O'Mac. You can follow us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker, at Kulz_sports, at smccormick_ff. We're getting into it today. Follow the show at Fantasy Roadshow. Check out the Substack, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. And today we are back again for week 4, red light, green light. Boys, are you ready?
Oh yeah. One thing that could get me even more ready. I've been waiting to do this for a little bit. Got my Fuji apple pear. Cheers.
Unfortunately, I don't have one today, so you guys go on without me. But
I've been waiting to sip that for 30 minutes that we've been getting ready. I'm excited. I love this episode. I think it's going to continue to get better and better. One thing I want to do is I want to start going through our previous week and basically like highlighting our swings and misses, our home runs. And we don't have to sit here and go through each one, but just kind of hold ourselves accountable for bad picks, like my red light of Tyreek Hill. I definitely was on the wrong side of, I thought the Broncos were going to show up at some point defensively, and there was going to be some regression with the Dolphins. And that did not happen. That ended up in 70 points. But, you have those misses. But anyways, I want to go through and do some of that. I just think it's a good, segue into the new week. So I think that's one way, we can add an element to the show. I also want to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Instead of start sit to where, some of these guys will highlight our obvious starts, but more like a love hate. You know what I mean? There's a slight difference in that. But I think there's value in showing just people we think are going to go off regardless of if they're a must start already or not. You know what I mean? I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, we like their matchup or we don't like their matchup. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So calling it love hate as opposed to start sit.
There's a little bit of a difference, right? Because I remember, I don't know, I had someone obvious like Josh Allen or Josh Herbert, the two Joshes, and you guys were like, well, yeah, he's just a must start regardless.
Yeah,
which I understand and agree, but I think talking about it and highlighting their matchup and why we think it's a huge week for them, because that's important in my mind, because there's a trickle down effect to his biggest weapons, but also from a DFS standpoint, some people might be listening from that angle and fade or highlight other players and build a roster based on our picks. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just a thought I had.
Yeah, Shane, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, the way you frame it is, Josh Allen's a good example. They're going to be starting him every week, but, it's hey, this is a week where you're probably going to see Josh Allen throw for 303 touchdowns. And so the correlation of that is probably a good week to start Gabe Davis.
Yeah, for sure. And instead of, I don't know. Anyways, we're all on the same page there. I just wanted to kind of make note of that as we're going and growing the show and figuring out exactly what it is we're going to do here. But
I will say, I will call your ass out if you put Zach Wilson on your red light again.
Yeah, that was lazy. But man, was that a good pick?
Yeah, you hit that one out of the park.
I just don't want to be sitting here trying to find that diamond in the rough and swinging and missing. You know what I mean? I think there's a sweet spot in there. So yeah, this week I have green light Josh Allen. I have red light Zach Wilson.
Well, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I was just talking to Shane prior to the episode, and I was mentioning how difficult I'm finding it, where you're trying to find this pocket of players. If you're talking about a start sit, you want the players that are in consideration for both.
Yeah,
where someone that isn't a must start, but they also have a good matchup, or someone that is a must start but has a bad matchup. So trying to intricately put those pieces together, you're I see what you're saying. So
yeah,
yeah,
but
I don't
like,
mind that.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it basically just takes quarterbacks out of it, right? Because like quarterback is the position probably more so than there's 7 or 8 quarterbacks that are basically must start.
Yeah.
So that's 2/3 of the league right there. I don't know. We don't need we're all on the same page. So anyways, yeah. What's going on? I want to hear about how you guys are feeling right now about your teams. I feel like after 3 weeks, you kind of have a good feel for what you need. 4 weeks is usually the mark of like, all right, I need to start making moves here, and here. How are you guys feeling in your redraft, the dynasty teams, whatever?
The one word I would say is itchy. Like I probably put out 20 different trade offers yesterday and today. A couple of leagues, I had like two of my leagues. I've got my main leagues I fell to 1 and 2. And so if I ever fall below 500, that's when I get itchy and I start hammering out those proposals. So
yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good. I mean, through the first couple of weeks, I'm usually sitting pretty good in pretty much every league. I do want to take a deeper look and look at where I can make my team better, and start really diving into some trade offers, because that's something I just haven't really been doing through the first 3 weeks. But now encroaching week 4, I think it's a perfect time to, now that we have a decent understanding of what's going on, to kind of start formulating on how to make each team better, where my strong points are, where my weak points are, and who I can try to package up, and really start diving into the other teams too, and seeing what they need, and trying to create these conversations with the other league mates.
Yeah. I texted Truck this morning and told him that I want to dive in this week for release after this week. Our rest of season rankings. I think it's a good time to kind of like, we sort of know what we have. Of course, there's going to be injury, and identities are starting to be formed with teams, I guess you could say. So I think that's something to keep an eye out for. We'll be working on our rest of season rankings, and then make sure that's published on our Substack. thefantasyroadshow.substack.com is where you can find that. And of course, the article that we release here with our red light, green light. But yeah, what's going on personally, Rod? Where are you at? It looks like you're at home.
I am. I'm at home. Tomorrow I'll be heading to Iowa, going to Iowa, staying the night on Thursday night. But big news, the writer strike is over.
Oh, shit.
The writers are starting today. They are starting writing today. So
nice.
We're not out of the woods yet. The actors still need to negotiate their contract, but TV and movie production should be up and working pretty soon, and I'll be back to work, which I cannot wait.
I love that. What's that song? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods?
Yeah. So
is that T-Swift?
I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that one, but yeah.
I'd also like to bring up that last week you pledged your fandom to the Dallas Cowboys, and then less than 24 hours later, Diggs get injured, and then they lose to the worst team in the NFL. So Shane, how do you feel about having Ryan on board?
Bartman. That's Shane, what I have to say.
Shane, I would like to formally apologize. Apparently, I'm just a cancer to certain sports teams. So
yeah, what have you done in your past that just sold your soul to NFL fan loyalty?
I don't know. I think they're just the fantasy gods, and the football gods are like, no, you stay with the Bears. You stay with the Bears. Yeah.
Your life is torture.
Pretty much. So yeah, that's where that's at.
Yeah. All right. Well, not much is going on. Shane, what do you think about the look?
Good. Joe Kane. I said it on Sunday morning show, for all those that are familiar with the program, this is Joe Kane 2.0.
That's awesome.
I need to still watch that to understand the reference more, but the flow was just starting to get like it needed to be tamed at somehow. So I bought one of these, buying an LSU just because if it didn't work, it was still, some LSU swag.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's where this came from. But yeah, I am starting to get into why I moved to Austin and doing some cool things. Went to my first UT game a couple weeks ago. That was awesome. Going to the Comedy Mothership tonight to see Joe Rogan and friends. That is going to be awesome. Thank you to the roadie, Paulo. He asked me if I've been to we're live on stream, Shane, and he asked me if I've been to the Mothership yet. I'm like, no, I haven't. Let me look to see, like, typically it's Rogan sold out, months in advance. And I went on and just like random 2 tickets became available for the Mothership on Wednesday night. So thank you, Rody Paulo, for being the motivation for having me going to see that this week. And then ACL is in a couple weeks, so I bought tickets to Austin City Limits, and that should be fun. But that's what's going on over here.
Nice.
I'm going dove
sounds
hunting
awesome.
this weekend. That's another. It's another fun. But anyways, let's get into it. Everybody knows what to do. Buckle. It is a T-Swift song. I just Googled it. Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the...
I must not be as much of a Swiftie as I previously thought, because I do not remember that one at all.
Dude, let's go. That's awesome. What a great coincidence.
All right.
Maybe I am a Swiftie.
Maybe you are.
Yeah, let's get into it. Kick us off, right?
Yeah. We're going to do red light, green light today. Obviously, we're going to start with quarterbacks, and we always start red light. So, Shane, why don't you go ahead and give us your first red light quarterback and tell us why?
So I'm going to go with, a lot of people probably still stuck starting him even in one quarterback leads, but I'm going with my guy, Dak Prescott. I just don't like the matchup against the Patriots. 5th fewest passing yards allowed. We saw them just a couple weeks ago really contain Tua in a game, and I think this will be kind of a low scoring, not a very explosive game for Dallas and Dak.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and he's on my list. So 1 of 1 already. No, you're absolutely right, though. I mean, we saw Dak struggle last week against Arizona.
He's actually on your list.
Yeah, he is actually the first quarterback on my red light list.
Okay. You don't have just like 5 quarterbacks written down and whatever one chain. Okay, good.
Nope, I got 2, and I was hoping that they weren't going to be, but now it's just a normal thing.
I want to make sure. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But for me, we saw Dak struggle last week against Arizona, throwing his first interception. He hasn't surpassed 20 fantasy points yet this season, and he's currently ranked 19th among all scoring fantasy quarterbacks. Like, he's just not getting it done right now, and a bad matchup this week against New England. I'm right there with you, Shane. I do not like Dak Prescott this week.
Yeah.
So, Shane, as a Cowboy fan, is it concerns about Dak? Is it Kellen Moore no longer being there? Is it McCarthy being McCarthy?
Well, it's a couple things. I always worried about Kellen Moore leaving because they were so successful in offensive ratings, points scored, red zone. They were like one of the top teams in the red zone scoring the last 2 years under him. I mean, it kind of got not talked about very much in the offseason that he left. I was always much more concerned about that than Dak. I don't think some of the people will say it's losing Dalton Schultz. I don't think that matters at all. I think Ferguson is just as good a tight end. I think it's more about play calling. and what they're doing down there. And it has nothing to do with Zeke not being there either. I've heard that this week too from some of those national sports talk shows that
they're just so smart, aren't they?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Kulz, who do you got?
I'll stick in that game. Here's another. I got Macaroni Jones. I just think that he's not good, first of all. I think that the Cowboys are going to come back and punch with a vengeance at home against who I think is just not a very good quarterback. I think this is probably the last season. I mean, Belichick's got to at some point feel that hot seat. I mean, hot seat in that, like, you need to start winning again. And Kraft is always going to do whatever he has to have a winning football team. So at some point you have to cut your losses with him. And I think it's going to have to be this season. But yeah, that's my one, I would say, like, Zach Wilson pick of the week. Going to one of the best defenses. I think it's going to be ugly. So I think this season's the beginning and the end for Macaroni, and you're going to see it this week in a matchup against one of the better defenses that is going to be coming in pissed off. But also Lamar Jackson. He is another red light of mine. I think that the Browns defense is outstanding. I think I'm pretty comfortable in saying that I think they're the best defense in the NFL. Their secondary has looked a lot better than originally thought going into the year. Excuse me. And the defensive line is the best in football. I would put it ahead of the Eagles. Even the Eagles is pretty damn good too. But the way that the Browns have looked, here's a shocking stat. I love stats that you just don't believe. They didn't allow a team in the red zone through 10 quarters until Eli Moore fumbled that ball, like basically in the red zone. So not even the defense letting another team in the red zone. It was because, it was Eli Moore getting stripped. Could you imagine going through 3 games of football and watching your team's defense not allow a team in the red zone? So
I envy those people.
Yeah. How would that be, Truck? Would that be something you might be interested in?
Yeah, it would. But I'm not gonna plague the Browns with my fandom. Okay.
Yeah. So for me, like, I've been trying to find. I have been putting players on the red light list all season, playing the Browns. And for me this week, it's Lamar. I don't think you could put any of the running backs in there, and that's what I've been going towards to start off the show. But Lamar, this offense is still figuring it out. They're leaning very heavily on Zay Flowers. Mark Andrews, what do you guys think it is with Mark Andrews right now? Is he just still getting ramped up? Is he still potentially injured? Is the quad bothering him? What's going on there? Is it time to worry if you're an Andrews owner who spent round 3 draft capital on him, like myself and Truck did quite often?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's I'm not panicking just yet. He saved his production on week 2 with the touchdown. Last week was a little concerning. But I think he's just getting ramped back up, and I really hope it's just they don't want any re-injury and that he's just not playing like himself yet, and that hopefully in a couple weeks we see the Mark Andrews that we've known to love. But I'm just holding out hope. I don't know. I'm just not.
Yeah, I know.
Yet.
I was going to say I don't want to hear your biased opinion. What do you got, Shane? Because I feel that same way. But yeah. I can't say that it's. I can't sit here and lie and say that I think he's being ramped up. I just can't say that because, like, ramped up, what does that even mean? Like, it's the beginning of the season. You've been practicing. Of course, he had that little injury before the end of the season. The offense is new. There's new pieces. So, like, ramped, I just can't fool myself by saying it's ramped up as much as, is it the injury or is it him having a new role in this new offense? It's got to be one of those,
Yeah, I think I lean a little bit more towards the offense, and they're distributing the ball differently and not as concerted on him as much. I mean, they're throwing to the running backs a little bit more this year than what they have in the past. I mean, even when they're rolling out the dead bodies of Kenyon Drake and Melvin Gordon last week, they were getting targets. I think Bateman's going to be out this week, so that may help a little bit with targets this week for him.
Yeah, so like if it's the new role in a new offense, I think I'm less concerned because I think that's just like some shaking out that needs to happen, and he's still the best pass catcher in that offense. Obviously, Zay Flowers is a whole beast in his own, but like in terms of who we're going to be looking to and the chemistry they've already built, and once we start getting more red zone opportunities, because it's been an early season, right? Like there's so much that they have to figure out as an offense still, working through the kinks, who are their guys, but then also like just reps in the red zone. So I'm pretty confident that Andrews remains that guy for that offense and could still see, 10 plus touchdowns this year, which is going to separate him from everyone else not named Kelsey, Hawkinson, potentially Laporta. So
yeah. I mean, even with him missing that first week, he's still the number 11th scoring tight end. So I don't know. I'm still hopeful moving forward, but I agree with you. Lamar Jackson's on my red light list as well. He's only thrown a touchdown pass in 1 out of 3 games, and you're absolutely right, Mike. This Cleveland defense looks like the best in the league. Lamar last week found his production on the ground, and you know who's really good against rushing? Cleveland. So it's like I don't know. I don't like Jackson this week, and that's where I'm at. Shane, where are you at?
I think that's the good call. I was this close to making Lamar the Shane O'Mac shocker of the week. I really was. He was my first. I looked hard at him. So because that defense, and then I looked last year, but he only got 1 game against Cleveland last year, but he was QB 22 against them last year, and they're much better defense this year, I think, than even they were last year.
100%.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's for a DFS play, like stay away from him. Don't spend the money on it. And who knows, some guys may have drafted even in a 1 QB league a second guy that I probably would put ahead of Jackson this week.
Yeah, I agree with you.
One thing I meant to bring up at the top of the show, and I'm just gonna say it now before I forget. We got a sleeper update saying that Jonathan Taylor still doesn't want to play for the Colts, and the Colts still do not want to give him a long-term contract. So as a Zach Moss owner in a lot of leagues, and someone that was vocal about him, that's good to hear. As a football fan, I'd like to see Josh Taylor. I'd like to see Taylor on the field playing football this year. So please figure that out when he gets off the pup. If there's a chance that the Colts are fighting for that division, then I want to see Jonathan Taylor on the Colts. If that relationship, which now seems to be gone, I think this was the chance to try to repair that these last 4 weeks. Yeah, and let's get him on a team fast. But anyways, I just wanted to. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are there. I mean, I don't know that there is many thoughts besides feeling good about being a Moss owner.
No, for me, I mean, Zach Moss looks great so far, and if Jonathan Taylor's still unhappy and refuses to play with the Colts, Zach Moss is,
he's not going to play
for the whole season, right? Yeah, no, you're not going to force somebody to go out there and play. So, I just hope that the Colts change their opinion and are willing to trade him before the trade deadline, and I hope that is to the Ravens. I would love to see him on the Ravens.
Oh, never mind the trade. Yeah, the Ravens. Never mind a trade deadline. Let's make it
right away
in the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get some fantasy relevance. Let's shake things up a little bit. Yeah. Ravens would be awesome. Any other teams that catch your guys' eye?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't think it's going to be the Vikings anymore. I don't think it's going to be the Rams anymore. Rams would be a really good spot if Cup's coming back and if they think that, just as we talked about before, that would just be a Rams move to add the Stafford Cup. JT defense looks good. It just would seem like a Rams move, but I think they're pretty happy with Kyron. That's the vibe I'm getting at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyways, all right, Shane, who you got on for red lights?
So I had that Lamar. I had Lamar on there also because he was that. If he was going to be that close to being my shocker, he was going to be my red light.
Nice.
Okay, so
all right, well let's jump to green lights then. Mike, go ahead, start us off.
I would love to start us off. All right,
do it.
I would fucking love to start us off. I have a pretty big list of green lights, but one of my green lights that I would love to present to you, Ryan, is Justin Fields.
Whoa.
You would. you would.
Justin Fields is a green light quarterback this week, Ryan. Justin Fields is going to come out and show you and the Bears fans the Justin Fields that was hyped up before preseason, during preseason, before the season. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel great because I have him on my list as well.
Oh,
here's the thing. I'm not joking with you. Last night when I was preparing for this episode, I wrote down Justin Fields' name. 5 minutes later, I crossed it out. And then I go back and revisit. I'd write his name down again. I literally wrote it down and crossed it out a bunch of times. But no, you're absolutely right. If there's any game that Justin Fields is going to have any sort of bounce back or any sort of production, it's this game. There's zero expectations right now.
Yeah.
Like all the expectations have been thrown out the window.
Yeah.
So I would love for Fields to go out there and do exactly what you said. I would love that, and I think this is the game to do it. I started him each of the first 3 weeks, even though I said I wanted to put. I've had him on my red light, and I still went out and started him because I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and I'm hoping, and I'm starting him this week as well. He's staying in my lineup, and I am just praying to God. This game is going to be ugly, the Broncos and Bears, but I got someone else on my green light list in this matchup as well.
Russ? Oh no, you're saying just
no, Russ. Yeah, I mean, I'll just go right into it. Russell Wilson, man, 300 yards passing in each of the last 2 games. The Bears defense is abysmal. The Broncos just got embarrassed last week against the Dolphins. You don't think Sean Payton is going to be like, all right, guys, we need to go out and do exactly what the Dolphins did to us. We need to do it to the Bears. Like, I think they're going to be bouncing back pretty strong. And Russell Wilson is the number 6 scoring quarterback right now in the season. Number 6. So
so you're expecting a high scoring game in that?
Absolutely.
I am too. I think it's like 46 right now. I would say blows past that over. Both defenses just look so bad. I honestly had Fields on my list a little bit more for entertainment to see your reaction, but the fact that you also had him killed that a little bit. But now I do know. I texted Chuck this morning pretty early about some potential trades for teams that we share together, and he mentioned that he didn't sleep very well. So now I know why. It was because he was contemplating Justin Fields on his green light list and like, did I really just do that? What did I just do? There was a constant conversation going on in his head while laying in bed all night on that one. But I mean, so for me, like you said, I do agree with if there's any time to do it, it's right now at home. I mean, we've been saying that now for basically every week since that disaster against the Packers. But this, like, for me is literally the last week. Like, you get this week to show us something, Justin Fields, or I'll probably start you matchup based. I have a 2 quarterback league that I have him in, and that's about it. But he'll be still start on that. I mean, I have Herbert and Fields as my 2 quarterbacks in that league. Feel awesome about it. You got to show me something, Fields. I mean, period.
Yeah, if you can't do it against Denver, you can't do it at all.
Yep. What do you got, Shane?
So my first guy is going to be the Ryan Whisperer guy, Daniel Jones, of course.
Yes.
Newsflash. He's on my green light list as well. Okay, Daniel Jones is a green light. Go ahead, Shane. I'll feed off of what you have to say, but
it's time to go back to the well. I mean, the matchup is just too amazing. He goes back home on a Monday night. Seahawks giving up the second most passing yards in the league, like almost 330 yards a game. He is going to bounce back in a big way. It's going to be, I feel like this will probably even be kind of like a 30-28 type of game, score wise, even.
Yeah.
Because both of these defenses are not great.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you there. Riding Daniel Jones to the promised land this week. Absolutely. I mean, we saw him against Arizona 2 weeks ago, put up 34 points, almost 35 points against a bad defense. So, yeah, I'm all on that.
So he is on my list with a star next to him that says if Saquon Barkley starts. So in the spirit of workshopping this show, Rye, we need to think, one of the collective things that we need to think of this week is what our drop is going to be when we are all 3 on a guy. We need to do that for the better of the show. But yeah, so Daniel Jones, I mean, incredible matchup, primetime Monday night. We'll be live during that. So come either celebrate or throw tomatoes at us. But love the matchup. I mean, anyone against the Seahawks is looking like it's going to be a high scoring game, especially when it's not in Seattle. So I love it. I would hope that Waller is going to be a big benefactor of that, because I don't know who it is in the wide receiver room. I almost put like Hyatt down on my list, but I just don't like Hyatt. But yeah, so I definitely like that. I'm on board. I would love to see Saquon in this. I thought it was going to be 3 weeks, but we're hearing day to day. Is the dabble just kind of mind game, or is that legitimate? I hope for Saquon's sake, for his owner's sake, I'm one of those people. So Saquon play. The NFL is better when Saquon's in it and on Monday night playing well.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys think. Like, do you really think he could be back this quick from a high ankle sprain?
No.
The way that it looked, I would say no. We talked about it a little bit on our waivers. Yes, our waiver episode yesterday, and I was like, "There's no way." But
Yeah.
I will say though, if there's anybody that could do it, it's Saquon. The
and
guy
they've been
is
pretty
superhuman.
Optimistic in their I don't know if that's intentional optimism or if it's like they were pleasantly surprised and are excited that it's not as bad as they thought. So I think we'll find out this week. There's no way in my mind, but
yeah.
So in terms of Daniel Jones, though, I want to give you a couple start sit options. I have Daniel Jones in 2 leagues. My backup quarterbacks in both of those leagues, backup / now starting, flexing, whatever you want to call it. I have to make a choice between Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, then in another league, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson.
There's no way you can bitch Kirk Cousins after the first 3 weeks.
He's the number 1 scoring quarterback right now in the season.
So we're going Kirk over Daniel Jones. How about Anthony Richardson?
Do we have full confirmation he's for sure out of concussion protocol?
Yeah, he's taking full team reps right now. We just got that update with the JT news. So it's Anthony Richardson. He is home against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Over under is 46.5. I look at the Rams as a team that you could probably run the football on. Donald's going to get in the middle and, bust things up, causing Richardson to get out of the pocket and run. So I kind of like that matchup. I have Anthony Richardson here. We'll just segue right into it. I have him on my green light list as well. There was a star next to it and said, if healthy. So
yeah,
it's looking like he is. So he will be on my green light list. He's been a pleasant surprise. The Rams defense has also been a pleasant surprise. That being said, I still think they're young and unproven. So this could be a game away against a Colts team who's now 2-1 coming off a big win, getting their guy back, their quarterback, and feeling like they have a chance to win this division. So you want to win this game. You need to win this game against a vulnerable Rams team. But like I said, that matchup wise with Donald getting in and disrupting things and getting some pressure on the quarterback, that makes me think someone like Anthony Richardson, who is so talented on his feet, can get out and get some yards. So I have him on my green light list. It's also concerning that if they get to him and make him uncomfortable, he's going to throw, and I don't really believe in his arm, which could lead to turnovers. That being said, I think he looks to his legs, gets out of the pocket, and has a really big game.
Yeah, he was in contention for my list, but I wasn't sure if he's going to play or not. So it's definitely intriguing that he's taken all first team reps and seems to be out of the protocol. So I completely agree with that. I think he'll have a big game.
So Jones or Richardson? I'm not letting you get off easy. Who do you got?
I think I would go Jones over Richardson there.
Shane, what about if Jones? What about if Saquon's not in?
It doesn't matter too much to me.
What about you? No?
Yeah, no, I'm still riding Jones over Richardson.
Well, I should listen to you guys and auto start him, but I think I'm going to see how Saquon's health is. I think that matters to me.
Absolutely.
Just because I think the offense is so much better with him in it.
Oh, yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to, you guys got anything else for green light quarterbacks? Any other highlights?
Of course.
Okay, go ahead. Take it away.
I have two Joshes, Josh Allen and Josh Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
Those two, I mean, that Bills game, I think, is going to be must-watch TV, first of all. I think everyone, that's not a shocker. But I think the Bills are still the alpha in that division and are going to show it. I've been preaching Dolphins regression for a couple of weeks now, and this is the perfect spot for it to come. I mean, if it doesn't, then the Dolphins aren't an anomaly. They're changing the game of football, and they're the best offense in the league and probably going to win the Super Bowl. Do I think that's the case? No, but that's the easy answer to say. So I think the Bills come. I think their defense is very good, and I think that Josh Allen's has a lot to prove. I mean, there are doubters out there on Josh Allen and him winning games like this and taking over as the top dog in the AFC. Well, of course, Mahomes, but you know what I'm trying to say. Like, the Bills team has been built for this moment, and it's time to go and win this game, win the division, flex their muscles, and show who top dog is. So I think you're going to see the best version of the Bills this weekend at home. And I'm looking forward to seeing what that means for Allen, what that means for Dalton Kincaid. We'll talk about him later, but super high scoring game. And I think Allen, comes out on top. Josh Herbert, QB1. He's going to continue to be QB1. That's kind of how I think all of us had him pretty high preseason. And he's just proving to be that against a bad Raiders team. Eckler comes back. I don't know. I think Herbert's a guy that he's just. I'm waiting to see the matchup where I'm like, this might be a bad week for Herbert. I just don't see it in the near future.
No, and don't anyone that's got him, like, even if it's DFS, like, don't worry about Mike Williams being gone. That's going to be pretty seamless replacement between Palmer and Johnston.
Yeah, that's worth talking about. What do you think? I've been saying short-term Palmer, long-term QJ. I think it was Staley that came out and said the original plans were to ease QJ into the offense, and that is now thrown out the window. So hearing that from a coach is huge because it may be sooner than I originally had thought. But he's going to get the opportunity to show what he can do, which should be exciting for QJ owners.
Yeah. And it's like, if I had to rank him this week, I'd rank Palmer ahead of Johnston, but rest of the year, I'd rather have Johnston. Much more upside, I think.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Also I feel like we've seen Palmer. I feel like this is a reoccurring thing each season where Mike Williams gets hurt and I pick up Josh Palmer, and it just hasn't really panned out the way I wanted it to. So I think yes, Palmer should be great this week and probably the week after in the short term, like Mike said. But Quentin Johnston just seems like the better wide receiver and someone who I'd much rather have season long.
Yep.
Speaking to your recent history, that you're thinking about last year, and last year he was wide receiver 1, which he's not a wide receiver 1 as we saw last year. But could he step in and be a viable wide receiver 2, a number 3 threat on the offense? I mean, he can produce, right? Is he the talent that Mike Williams is? No, but listen, I mean, Keenan Allen just caught 18 balls last week. Like, defenses are going to be trying to stop that, and because of it, Palmer could be open. So I think most people can agree that like short term Palmer is going to look all right, and then QJ, if he shows to be the talent that they drafted him for, then he could be like, whoa, we thought Mike Williams was good,
Yeah. Got any other ones on that list, Mike?
Yeah, I have Pickett as well. Just like I think this is, in terms of like, if there's a week to do it, it's going to be this week against Houston, who's coming off probably their biggest win. And I don't know, that's like a Lions type. I just had audio go off in my ear from a video. But yeah, if there's going to be any week for the Steelers offense to look good and him and Pickens to show that what they have, it's this week, coming off a huge win. I was saying, I don't know how long they've had a win like that in, but seems to be a regression type week for me with the Texans. So I'd like to see that defensive line, TJ Watt, just kind of disrupt things and get Stroud and make him look really uncomfortable and light a fire under the offense. I have like a note for green light running backs. I don't know which Steelers running back it'll be, but one of them is going to rise to the top this week and be like the guy. And if I had to guess, like, I don't want to say Jaylen Warren, but he seems to look better as running the ball in that offense. So it very well could be him. But I think a Steelers running back, if not both, are going to show to have a lot of production this week. And this offense as a whole is going to make them 3-1 and kind of show what they can be, what they haven't yet against some good defenses to start the year.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's move on to red light running backs. Shane, why don't you kick us off?
Let me see here. So yeah, my first one. Oh, okay. This is going to be a little bit. This is the Shane O'Mac shocker of the week.
Dun dun dun.
Now let me preface this. Last week I felt like I was a little bit like my Dallas Cowboys. I was coming off my Tua pick, and I got a little Conor McGregor with my shocker pick of Cade Otton. I got a little bit too high on my horse. I went too far.
You were hanging dong.
So I didn't do that. But, this one is going to be a little bit more of a shocker because people are going to be starting him in their lineups no matter what. He's has a lot of touches he's getting, which is a good thing. But my shocker of the week is Joe Mixon. And this is all about the matchup. And he's at Tennessee, and we've seen the last 2 years, Tennessee, while they're horrible against the pass, they are very, very good against the run. They've allowed less than 70 yards a game this year. Every running back they've shut down. Last week I think Jerome Ford had like 16 or 17 yards rushing. The week before, Joshua Kelly was in the teens rushing. I don't think with Joe Burrow's calf, I don't think that Cincinnati's going to be up big in this game where they're just milking it away, running it. So I think this is a game where probably Mixon struggles to even get to 75 yards rushing. And if he doesn't find the end zone, you're probably he's not going to be a top 20 running back.
Yeah.
Shane, we're 3 for 3. 3 for 3 right now.
Oh, you got the shocker?
I got, Mixon right now. You can't really see my list very well. It doesn't zoom, but I got Joe Mixon on my list as well. So I'm right there with you on the shocker.
All right.
Ryan, can we get this picture, what Shane was describing earlier? I want to get Shane O'Mac's face on this picture.
I think I can do that.
Sorry.
But you're good. No, that was appropriate to cut me off for. But Joe Mixon, he's been averaging 60 yards per game this season. He doesn't have a game over 65. Titans are the 4th best team against the run. Not a single running back this year has gotten over 45 yards on them. And they held last week Jerome Ford to 18 yards, and the week prior Jerome Ford put up 108 on the Steelers. So the Tennessee Titans are hard to run against, and Mixon just hasn't done enough this season to make me confident in him this week. So I'm right there with you, Shane. Joe Mixon is a red light for me.
I understand that. I don't like the matchup at all. I think Mixon's definitely losing steam in terms of like what he was at one point. That being said, I think he looked okay last week. He had a couple big runs at least that were all right, that's Joe Mixon. I'm trying to think of the exact run. Late in the game, he had a first down, comes up, fired up, throws up the first down. And that was at least the flash of his youth, which was good to see. But I do think that they need more than ever this year that P. Ryan type back to rise and show who that's going to be. It doesn't look like it's Chase Brown. It doesn't really look like it's Travion Williams or P. Ryan or Chris Evans. And they need that more than ever, I think, this year. So if it's not Chase Brown, it needs to be found quickly because he is looking just like he can't be that Joe Mixon for a full game, let alone a full season, Yeah. So I'm interested to see what they do. Something has to be done. You need to find that P. Ryan to his, that lightning to thunder for him. So I'm cool with that. The matchup's horrible. I think Titans, they're plus 2.5. If that got to plus 3, then it's a home dog plus 3 points. That's a very bad or a very good spot for the Titans. But anyways, in that same game, I have King Henry. And my reasoning for having him is because I think his toe injury is a lot more serious than is being let off. He's just being outsnapped an egregious amount every single game by Tyjae Spears. And that's obviously not the case if he's fully healthy, right? He's just too good of a running back. His falling off a cliff that I think will happen in his career, I just don't think it's happened without at least running him into that. So there's got to be some injury going on there. And because of that, he's honestly a sit. When we're talking start sits, he's someone you drafted to be a must start player, but I'm not he's no longer that for me. Granted, I don't have him in any leagues, stayed far away, but if I did draft him, he is now until I see it happen, he's on my bench. I'm just not starting him and getting, a couple points a week. It's just too detrimental.
Shane, how you feel about that one?
Yeah, I agree. There's something. I watched a lot of that game last week. I was watching it, and he looks like he's almost running in quicksand. I mean, it's like even like little dump off passes he wasn't catching. I mean, it's not great. And the times you do see Tajay Spears in there, you can see a little bit. There's definitely more explosiveness.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Shane, who else you got for red light running backs?
Because Ryan has them too. Probably.
So then my next red light is going to be Brian Robinson.
Love it.
So, I'm going to give him a little bit of a props because last week, I mean, he still averaged 7 yards a rush, which is pretty good. When they got that bad game script against the Bills, he only got 10 carries, but he did produce 70 yards. He's dominating the rush attempts over Gibson in first 3 weeks, but
Gibson's trash.
Yeah, but for some reason they tilt the rushes towards him and that's not very even. But the Eagles they're even better than the Browns. They're better than the Titans. They give up less than 50 yards of rushing a game. And Robinson, I feel like you're only going to want to start him when he's playing those games that's like against the Cardinals where they get up and they just want to milk that clock in the second half. And if he runs for 3 yards at attempt, that's fine as long as he's killing clock.
How often do you think those games happen the rest of the season for the Commanders? Because I just don't think they're that good.
Yeah, they're not. I mean, I wouldn't have thought that would have been the case at Denver, but it ended up being the case.
Yeah, I mean, Denver might just be that bad. I like that. I almost had him on my list. I ended up not, just because of Gibson fumbling the ball again. Like Gibson, you can throw him out. I'm dropping him in every league I have him in. Barring injury, it's Robinson all season. Drafting Gibson, my thought process was I figured he would separate himself from a talent perspective and eventually win target share, but I knew going in how risky that was with the Redskins and how they feel about Brian Robinson. They just want him to be the guy so badly that it was going to have to be something very obvious for him to be pulled. So that was a swing and a miss. Whatever. Wasn't huge draft capital put into that, but was definitely counting on him to be like an RB3 for me, someone to plug on bye weeks. But yeah, I like it.
Yeah, he is not on my list, just to be clear. He's Brian Robinson's not on my list, but I completely agree with you, Shane. Tough matchup this week, and he's not really kind of lackluster in his efficiency. I have Ramondre Stevenson. It seems like a weekly red light list for the show, but he's, from what we saw last week, he looks to be in a 50-50 split with Zeke. Zeke just looked like the better running back last week, and the Cowboys got embarrassed last week. And I think the Cowboys bounce back strong, and I don't think Stevenson can do much against this Dallas defense.
Yeah, it's concerning how he's
That's a good
looking.
call. It's Dallas dropped in the with the rankings for rush defenses, but a lot of that, I think they gave up like 65 yards. It was rushing, but that was to Dobbs, the quarterback. I mean, so I think they still held James Conner, I think, to maybe 90 yards rushing on, I don't know how many attempts he had, but that was more Dobbs that did damage last week against them than it was James Conner. So I think this will be a big get right game for Dallas and the defense.
I agree. Yeah, it's concerning how Stevenson's looked. I didn't watch that game quite like Truck did last week while he was sitting next to his new best friend in Boston. But from what I understand, Zeke looked just as good, if not like the better running back. So that's concerning. I don't like to hear that. One guy, my final guy on the red light running back list is Richad White. Chad. I hate that matchup. Going down to the Superdome against the Saints, who just lost their starting quarterback, who know that this is their division, and in order for it to be their division, that defense is going to need to step up in a big way in a spot like this. So I think they do just that. That defensive line's been great. Horrible spot for the Bucs. I think they were a little bit exposed in that, like, you beat up on two teams that are now 0-3, and then you have a little bit of hype going to that game and just look like nothing. You can't really get anything going. Mike Evans had to have a pretty incredible catch at the end. And I don't know. I don't like this Bucs team at all. I think Richad. I am a Richad White owner, and that's because of his target share, which has been elite, and it's going to remain that way. But in an offense that struggles to get things going, what does that amount to? It hasn't been a lot, and I think it's probably going to remain that way. A lot of underwhelming weeks, but you're going to start him because of the target share, and then he's going to have some good games where he gets in the end zone or breaks off a big 30-yard catch, things to that nature. So he's going to be worth starting, but a week like this, it's going to be bad. Saints are going to clamp down.
Yeah, the Bucs got exposed last week by the Philadelphia Eagles, and with Rachaad White, man, it's been tough. Rachaad White. If you started him all 3 weeks so far, you'd be happy with that one game against Chicago. It was the only game he rushed for over 40 yards. Like, he's been pretty quiet on the ground, and that Saints defense, they're a top 10 defense against the run. They're really good, and it's in New Orleans. So yeah, I'm right there with you, Mike. All right, you guys good? Let's move on to green light running back. Shane, go ahead and kick us off.
Yikes. I didn't realize it was that bad. Under 7 points, 6.9, 6.2 in weeks 1 and 3.
Yeah. You would have been only happy with that week 2 against Chicago. Terrible defense.
Chicago.
Richad against Chicago.
Richad?
So, yeah, go ahead, Shane. Kick us off.
My first green light, I'm going Mr. James Cook against Miami.
Love it.
Love everything about we're seeing from him. I'm loving the touches. He's getting like 18 touches a game. He's going over 6 yards a carry. He's been near at 100 or over 100 yards rushing the last couple of games. He's got a great floor for receptions in PPR league. He's getting like 4 or 5 a game. This should be, like you touched upon earlier, this should be a nice high scoring back and forth game where he's heavily involved in the game script, whether if it's rushing and receiving. I don't even care that he doesn't get the goal line touches. He's getting that many catches and rushing, and he's that efficient with it. I love everything about him.
I co-sign everything you just said.
Me third. Yeah, I love James Cook. Like, James Cook is just so good. But yeah, everything you said, I completely agree with. My guy on my green light list is Zach Moss. He's versus the Rams at home, and 30 carries last week, 18 the week before, touchdown in each of the last 2 weeks. Like, Zach Moss has been a legit fantasy piece, and I think he's going to be again this week. He has a better matchup this week than he did last week against Baltimore, and he put up over 20 points against Baltimore, so I think he eats again this week against the Rams.
Yeah, he even caught a pass. It was a touchdown pass he caught last week. I mean, you don't expect to see that out of him, but
yeah.
I like it. I have 2 guys that the fantasy trucker is going to be excited to hear on my green light list.
Let's hear him.
One of them is Roshan Johnson.
Let's go.
2
Bears in your green lights. Let's go.
The Bears. Yeah. I think they at least lose by a field goal in that game. And I think it's going to be high scoring. So If that's the case, then the offense is going to need to look good or at least put up points. I think they're going to do that. And, I already talked about Fields. Sorry, I got distracted.
Squirrel.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Roshan is going to start to, separate himself in that backfield. He's going to show you the full threat type of running back that he is, catching the ball, running the ball. I expect a touchdown out of him, maybe 4 catches. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a big game for Roshan. And I'm actually going to contemplate putting him in some lineups as like a flex option, like a risky type flex play. If that's what, I talk about it a lot. It's what does your lineup need? Given the right situation, Roshan might crack some lineups for me this week. And then the other guy's Miles Sanders. Talk about if he's ever going to do it.
Wow.
If he's ever going to do it, it's going to have to be this week. He's got the Vikings at home. Another that spreads at 3.5, like another 3.5 point home dog. That's a very good spot to be sitting in against a team that's just in shambles in my mind. Yeah, the offense has been great from a fantasy perspective, but the team is not good. 0-3, they have to win. This is a must win for the Vikings. But their defense is just bad. It's not a good defense. So I think it doesn't matter as much for Sanders as who's at quarterback, as long as I think he's just going to get fed and there's going to be some production there because of it. So like if he's going to get a lot of touches in a game that against a bad defense. And because of that, I think it leads to a very good fantasy day. So I like Sanders. I don't know how you guys feel about that. But yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love a good Sanders green light.
Yeah. So I'll just stay on that game real quick. I also have Thielen with a star next to him. If Dalton's in, then I love Thielen again. That connection is, as we said last week, like that connection is that was one of my very, very highlights last week in red light, green light. I had Thielen as a green light wide receiver. I think it does matter if Dalton's in there. Green light receivers last week were good for me. I had Diggs, Mike Williams, injury, Amari Cooper, and Adam Thielen. So Thielen will be back on this list for me if Dalton's in there.
Yeah, I like that too. For me, I got Kenneth Walker as a green light running back. He's the number 3 running back on the season, back-to-back 2 touchdown games. The guy's an absolute beast.
Outstanding, yeah.
Yeah, and he even had 59 yards receiving last week. So add that on top of it, just icing on the cake. This Giants defense is pretty bad against the run. They're the 4th worst team, allowing 138 yards a game. So I think Walker's going to have another big game, and I think I'm going to call it. I think he has his 3rd in a row 2 touchdown game.
Ew. I like it. Don't have much to add there, though.
Yep, I'm with you. I'm with you with that one. Walker was my other one, and like a couple things. Like I didn't realize that he was that high already this year as RB3. You said,
yeah,
wouldn't have guessed that. And Walker's could be so far, and 3 weeks into the season is probably going to be my biggest swing and miss of heading into the season. I wasn't high on him. I wasn't targeting him in the drafts. I really thought they spent 2nd round draft capital on Charbonneau. And I thought spending that draft capital, it may be more like a 60-40 split. And he would get the receiving work that Walker wouldn't get, maybe start stealing some of the goal line work. And it's not. I mean, Walker has been getting even the goal line work. And I think they just did a fooled you when, head into the season thinking spending a 2nd round pick meant something, but it doesn't to Pete Carroll.
Nope, not at all.
I think Charbonneau, he is going to carve out a standalone role by the end of the year, though. They are throwing him in there, and the Seahawks do score points. So I think eventually he'll have like somewhat of standalone value. But yeah, I mean, I told Ryan in our waiver episode earlier this week, like I am done. I'm never again falling for the bringing in a rookie running back and devaluing current successful proven running back. Like I'm just not doing that anymore. So it's one of those things you got to learn and get better, like everything in life. And for me, that's one of them.
But hey, everyone out there, but still stash Charbonnet. I mean, keep
Injury
him on.
upside is through
That's
the
a
roof.
league winner. If
Did you guys see? Did you guys see that play at the goal line when he just absolutely trucked that guy?
You just got trucked. We need to figure out how we can make that a segment. You just got trucked.
You just got trucked.
That's something we need to work on making.
Workshop it.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on to red light wide receivers. If you guys are all good there.
Yep.
I'll start.
All right.
Nico and Tank Dell.
Okay.
Just one word: regression.
Yep.
Okay.
That's all I need.
I do want to just chime in real quick. I know if there's a few people watching. We are live right now. Any and all questions that you guys may have will be answered after the show. So stick around. We'll be going through all those questions. Feel free to chime in the comment box.
I changed my screen to private chat so I don't see any of those because the squirrel would be so real right now if I saw them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, Nico, Tank, one word, regression. Hollywood, one word, dog shit.
Okay. Love it.
Kulz Sports Speed Thoughts.
Yeah.
Shane, do you remember the speed thoughts?
What?
Do you remember the speed thoughts? Did you hear that? Oh man,
I don't think he was a roadie at that time.
No,
but
we need to dig it out of the archives. That's maybe my best work.
So we were going through the tight end rankings, dynasty tight end rankings, and we were going through like 21 to like 50 or something, and it was the last of our dynasty rankings episode, and we're talking to each other, we're like, I don't want to do this. We're like, this episode is going to be terrible. I'm like, you know what, let's do a Kulz Sports Speed Thoughts. You just go down the list and just very, very quickly mention every guy that's on our rankings and why they're there. And he just goes off. I think he referenced a Donald Trump Jr. or like it was pretty funny. Yeah.
So we were sitting there and I was just like rambling through like what I thought of the people, and Ryan's like, boom, we're doing that. Like we're pressing record and you're just going to do that. So I probably went through like 40 players, and it was like the fantasy football Kulz Sports brain version of like a freestyle rap. And it was pretty funny. We'll dig it up. We'll dig it up for you.
All right. So my first wide receiver red light is Christian Kirk. This Jags offense has just been underperforming compared to, expectations. Without a touchdown last week, Kirk scores under 10 points. Like the touchdown saved him last week. Atlanta is quietly the fourth best defense against pass. Like they're a good defense. So Kirk, he's at home in Jacksonville against Atlanta and
London.
Second home. Okay. Jacksonville home game in London, since they play there every year. But no, you're right. It's in London. It's the early game. Make sure you guys wake up early for that one. But yeah, I think Kirk has a bad game this week.
I don't have much to say there besides London. This is their soon to be full-time home, current second home. I don't know what to think yet about this game, or like I probably have to do a little bit of digging on how they perform in London, but to my knowledge, it's usually kind of a sleepy game. But I'll be up. I'll be excited. If Truck is not answering his phone, I'll just be spam calling him because he can be a little bitch in the morning sometimes when he's not on work. But
yeah. All right, cool. Shane, who do you got for red light wide receiver?
All right, my first guy, I'm going with a guy who's scored in every game. He's gotten almost 30 targets first 3 games of the year.
That sounds great.
Sounds great, right? But I'm going with history here, and I'm going with Mike Evans at New Orleans.
Oh,
And let me. I'm going to read some. I'm going to read some numbers here to you. Okay.
Please do.
His last 4 games against the Saints.
Uh-huh.
Wide receiver 54, wide receiver 43, wide receiver 31, and wide receiver 92.
Wow.
That's something.
Yeah,
a lot of that has to do with his very heated rivalry with Mr. Marshawn Lattimore.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I mean, we talk about like, will so and so shadow somebody? Guaranteed, Lattimore will be on him.
Are you kidding
All
me?
game.
That's like the most surefire thing. Period of the week. It's always fun to watch. I mean, it's exciting. Oh, by the way, Mike Evans, did you see? I meant to mention this, but Truck saw it. Did you see what Tyreek Hill said on stream?
What he wants to do after football?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was dead serious.
Dead serious. And he's like, you think I can do that? And Mike's like, just not responding. And Tyreek's like, no. He's like, yeah, I mean, do whatever you want. I don't have anything to say about that. I'm not gonna tell you, yeah, dude, you'd be a great porn star.
Yeah. But
so
Tyreek speed does not translate good to that profession. So
he'd probably be a good porn star, though, to be honest.
That is funny. That
was hilarious. Cool. I agree. I mean, Evans against the Saints. I just think this game as a Bucs fan is not going to be fun to watch in general. So yeah, I'm on board with that.
Yeah, same here. I had
famous Jameis, the quarterback for the Saints this week, by the way.
It looks like it. Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes. But I agree with you, Shane. I had Evans on my list as well. This Saints team is really good. This defense is legit. So based on what we saw from Baker and the Bucs last week against Philly, I would think it's a very similar story there against the Saints. Kulz, what do you got? You got any more on the red light?
No, I gave you all mine.
Okay. Let's move to green light wide receivers. Who wants to start it off?
I will. I already mentioned Thielen if Dalton is in. And then I want to give you my player like I've been doing. Palmer / QJ. I think that Chargers Raiders, I think the Chargers are going to win that game and put up a lot of points at home. And I think you're going to see like who rises to be the guy as wide receiver 2 in that offense. And I want a piece of it, whoever it is. It does not change my thought process as that offense is going to be the best, one of the best in the league. And Herbert's going to have a top 3 QB year. He's QB1 already. I think like you had to anticipate an injury between either Keenan or Mike Williams this year. And fortunately it happened in week 3. But one of those guys is going to be massive value if you get him on the wire or if he's already on your bench and you spent late draft capital. So I think you're going to see it immediately. Like, to me, you get Eckler back. Herbert's not going to want to just like ease one of those guys into their new role. He's going to make them drink from a fire hose, and we're going to see who it is this week. So that's who I got.
Drinking from a fire hose. That's a very descriptive way to do it. I'm just envisioning that. I find that funny. But yeah, I got Thielen on my list as well for green lights. And I understand, obviously he was the wide receiver 3 last week with Dalton at the helm, but I think even with Bryce, Thielen can still eat this week. He's had a touchdown in back-to-back games, one with Bryce, one with Dalton. So Minnesota allowing the 8th most passing games this season. And, it's that revenge game narrative. Adam Thielen's going to want to show out against his old team, the Vikings. So I would be comfortable with Thielen in my lineup in pretty much all facets.
Sweep the leg. I had him too.
Hey, here we go. Lock it in. The trifecta. We'll get a drop going for future episodes. But yeah, go ahead, Shane. Do you want to add anything to the Thielen take?
Nope. You guys covered it.
Okay, wonderful. My other wide receiver green light is Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton, touchdown in two out of 3 games, 11 targets last week. Like I said before, the Broncos got embarrassed last week, and they're going to be looking to bounce back tough against the Chicago defense.
Would you say they got spanked?
Sure. Yeah, I would say 70 to 70 points is quite a spanking.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think Chicago's that defense is terrible, and Cortland Sutton seems to be emerging as a great option for Russell Wilson. So to go along with my Russell Wilson green light, I like Cortland Sutton.
Would you say Tyreek Hill had anything to do with that spanking?
I see where you're going with that. Yeah.
Maybe he would make
Tyreek
a good porn star. We'll find out.
We'll find out.
I like Sutton. I like, I like the over in that game. So
yeah,
I'm going to like a lot of people tied to it. I think Sutton looked like what everyone's wanted him to be last year, which I thought we were going to see a little bit of that from the Broncos as a team, but starting 0-3 is tough. However, it hasn't been the offense. So you have seen Sutton look good. He's a good receiver, man.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
All right, Shane, what else you got?
So I got two I want to add here, because one is with an asterisk. So the first one asterisk is if Jimmy G plays, I'm going to take Jacoby Myers at the Chargers. 2 games, he's had 22 targets. That's really great when you're trying to target a receiver. 16 catches out of those. Chargers have allowed the most passing yards in the league. They're horrible. And Jimmy G is not a down the field thrower, so he loves to hit those short target routes, which is what Myers will thrive in. But I don't know if that exists, if it's Aiden O'Connell or Brian Hoyer. I mean, why would you ever throw out Brian Hoyer at this stage of your is beyond me, but I don't put it past the Raiders to do that. So if that's the case, then, forget it for Myers. So if he doesn't play, then I'm going back to Puka Nacua for my green light. It was a quote unquote missed week for him last week, not a great week, but his worst week of the year, he still caught 5 balls for over 70 yards.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, the only reason as a Raiders front office or coach that I would start Hoyer over Aiden O'Connell is if you don't feel like he's ready, and you think if you win this game, you have a playoff shot, maybe 1-2 must win to be in the playoff picture in a tough division against a division opponent. So if you think you have a better chance of winning, you put in Hoyer. But so I could see that this week, Hoyer getting the nod, but Aiden O'Connell is the clear move to me for a team like this, because I don't think they have a shot at the playoffs and in terms of career development and seeing what you have in him as a quarterback. That's probably a good move. But yeah, it sounds like Jimmy G's out, or at least far away, and you can expect him to be out. So that's what I've been hearing. At least we'll see what happens.
Yep. All right, Kulz, you got any other green light wide
Diggs
receivers?
Get Diggs to pair with Allen. Of course, he had a Diggs-esque game last week. I think he sees the end zone in this one, which he did not last week. He's got to get those touchdowns moving at some point. Him and Jamar both, I think, score. They're going to just floodgates open and start scoring touchdowns. But Pickens is another guy. I said Pickett, Pickens and Pickett. A million times I've talked about their chemistry and how they are together. So those two, put them on my board as well.
Nice. Yeah, I can get behind those, definitely. All right, you guys good? We move on to tight ends?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Shane, go ahead and start us off. Red light tight ends.
So my guy is going to be David Njoku. Gets the Ravens. They've allowed the 5th fewest points to fantasy tight ends this year. He's not. I thought maybe his target percentage would go up when Chubb went down. but he's still sitting at just like 3 to 4 targets. I think he got 3 or 4 last week, so it didn't go up really that much. So I feel like the way the tight end landscape is, people where they drafted him are probably still starting him, but I think he's at a point where you can punt him for some of these streaming options.
Yeah,
I like that.
I have Njoku on my list as well. I just think that's going to be one of those Ravens, Browns, ugly, murky defensive battles. So I like that.
Yeah, I can understand that. And I'm actually staying in that same matchup. I talked about it earlier. My red light's Mark Andrews as hard as it is. Yeah. Yeah, Mark Andrews, man, this Cleveland defense is legit. You know, I don't know. There's really not much else to say about that. Mark Andrews, 45 yards week 2, 35 yards week 3. You know, it just seems to me like Zay Flowers is emerging as Lamar's favorite target. You know, it's still a small sample size, so we'll see how that develops. But I'd be worried about Mark Andrews this week against the Browns.
No, that's all I have to say is no.
No. Okay. You guys got any other red light tight ends?
No.
Schultz, Chigunkonkwo, Hunter Henry. I've been talking about them about every week, or at least last week for Henry, and quite a bit with Schultz. I think he was on my list last week. I just don't think his role in Houston is what it was when the Cowboys are thought to be. And then Brevin Jordan scored last week. You know how the Texans like to do that, like 2 tight end look. I think he's going to chip into some production. Yeah. And then same with Chig. Like going into the season, I thought he could have been a huge swing and miss at tight end, which it's looked like. I think that continues.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to green light tight ends. I'll kick it off. My green light tight end is Sam Laporta. Laporta.
Sammy game time.
He is the number 2 scoring tight end on the season. Number 2. The guy is an absolute beast. Seattle
Hawkinson won, right?
Yes, Hawkinson won, Laporta 2. Seattle allowing the second most passing yards, 328 yards per game.
Is the Iowa tight end narrative being talked about enough, or do we need to be the driving force of that?
I mean, Iowa's just their offensive line and their tight ends are just stellar. You know,
corn fed, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Shout out Hawkeyes. How about that?
Yeah, and I misspoke. I'm not talking about Seattle. Sam Laporta is playing the Packers this week, and my main reasoning with Laporta is I
didn't even catch that.
I know I caught it myself. But no, against the Packers, you know, Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to be covered by Jair Alexander. So I think that Jared Goff's really going to be looking to his second favorite target, Laporta, and really getting him involved for this Lions team to win in Lambeau.
Yep, love it. You can see each game his targets have gone up. It went like 4, 6, 11. It's progressing.
Yeah. All right, what do you guys got for green light tight ends?
I got my slash rookie tight ends.
Another slasher.
Kincaid and Musgrave. I think that Kincaid, this is going to be the game that you see him in the end zone. And then Musgrave, he's been a good. I want to say, I was looking at. I can't believe I didn't write it down in my notes. But I know his over under set at like 3.5 receptions, which he's hit, which the Lions have given up to tight ends each week, besides Noah Gray being the one. He had 3 catches for 30 yards, but the Lions give up catches and yards to the tight end. And Musgrave's been working into this offense, and kind of week 1, he looked a little bit lost. Last week, I think he had, let me look it up here, but I think he had 7 or 8 targets. Musgrave.
He had 8 targets. He ran 80% route rate run.
Yeah. 6 catches, 49 yards. against a team who gives up a lot to the tight end. I think you're going to see Musgrave eat here in this matchup. So, yeah, and then I have Freiermuth. But if you guys have anything to comment there, I just wanted to fire off my 3 green lights.
Yeah, Musgrave was my second one. I just was super impressed. He had 10 PPR points last week against the Saints, who Saints are one of the toughest defenses against tight ends. So for him to do that, I think also, like, I don't anticipate Christian Watson coming back on Thursday night still. I think he's out one more week, I bet.
Really?
And so that just still opens up more targets.
Yeah, so for me, I think it's like that role was going to be whoever tight end one for the Packers was going to have a good role. Musgrave showed to be that guy in camp, and then week 1 it looked like there was just like a little bit of miscommunication, or he didn't have the feel down yet, and it looks like that feel is down. So as that happens, whether you have Watson or not, he's going to become a trusted part of this offense, and I think you're starting to see it, and it's only going to improve throughout the year. Yeah, there may be swing and miss type weeks as this young offense is growing, but I think that as a whole, he's going to get better and better each week towards the end of the season. I think you're going to hear Kincaid, Musgrave, and Laporta at the top 10 and kind of just smash that rookie narrative to pieces, which sets up Brock Bowers next year.
Yeah.
And Jatavian Sanders. Tight end position is evolving, as we've discussed, and it is becoming a threat in fantasy sports. So
yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, guys. I think that about does it for our red light, green light. We're going to start a new segment right here, a little mailbag drop. We got a bunch of comments in the section. We're going to fire them off and get your guys' opinion. And here we go. All right. So, we are live. So just to preface, anytime we go live, throw in the comments and we'll answer them in this segment. So the first question. Should I pick up Tank Dell or Robert Woods?
Tank Dell. No, not even close.
I think we're all in unison there.
Next.
Next question. PPR, pick one. Zay Jones, Dobbs, JSN, or Devontae Parker?
I like that. I'm going Dobbs.
All right.
Boom.
I love
Next one.
All right, next one. Would you trade Dell away for Flowers or Rachaad White, considering my roster, 12-team PPR? He has A-Rich and Stroud, Pollard, James Cook, Khalil Herbert, Tyjae Spears, Elijah Mitchell, Diggs, Ayuk, Hopkins, Michael Thomas, Hollywood, Tank Dell, and Andrews. So, again, would you trade Tank Dell away for Flowers or Rachaad White?
Flowers.
Yeah, I would go Flowers. And the only other consideration would be Rachaad White. I guess that is the only other consideration. So I would trade him away for either. Honestly, probably Flowers, because I think he's that much better, but your team does need a running back 3. So I'd look into bye weeks of Pollard and James Cook. Those are 2 clear-cut running backs to start every week, but you are going to need I don't know. Do you know the bye weeks off the top of your head? I think the Bills are like 13. And do you know when are the Cowboys 7 maybe?
I think 7. 7's that big one.
Pollard. Let me just look real quick while we're going.
I'll put 7, it in my 2. Here, go ahead.
7 for the Cowboys and 13 for the Bills. God, my fucking brain, man. It's that it's that all those underdog drafts, it's just like ingrained in me. And I can somehow access the information when there's pressure applied. But I think I would look into week 7 and week 13 matchup if you like those. In Rachaad White's case, he's going to be the running back there all year. So if the week 7 and 13 matchup are good, then I would consider that as well. But Flowers is outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. I would trade Dell for Flowers. Rachaad White, considering your running backs, Pollard and James Cook are good 1-2 punch. But with Herbert, Spears, and Elijah Mitchell, you're kind of missing that third piece that you can fill in. So, yeah, Rachaad White would be a good third piece for me. So I think I would consider that as well.
I would look to add that RB3 before you get desperate. If something happens where one of those guys are gone for a week or two, you're going to look desperate and someone's going to take advantage of you, I sure would.
Yeah, Dylan, and he mentions leaning white because of my weaker running back depth. Exactly what we're talking about.
Do that and feel confident about it.
Yeah. And it's a redraft. Dylan, thanks for your question. On to the next from Jeb Armstrong. Hey, guys, I made 2 trades today. How do you feel about both of them? I traded David Montgomery, Jerome Ford, and Chris Olave for Christian McCaffrey, a blockbuster. I also traded Kelsey and Ramondre Stevenson for Jefferson and Walker. Wow. Okay, what do you guys think about these 2 trades? Jeb, thanks for your question.
Jesus.
And it is I'm sorry, just for more context here, included standard 10-team league. Leaves me with Kirk, CMC, Kamara, Devontae Adams, Jefferson, Waller, and Kai Williams as my starters.
So I love the Jefferson and Waller trade. You robbed that person solely because of Jefferson's the best player in that. I don't know, man. Yeah, I'm not a believer in Stevenson, but Jefferson is elite. Waller, hopefully he gets better. If not, you might be in trouble. But for the most part, I like that one. CMC, that is quite the haul for CMC.
Yeah.
And because Olave is so good, I think it's.
Yeah, Jeb, do yourself a favor though. Go make sure if Elijah Mitchell is available, go get him. Cover yourself, since you just took on CMC.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. But I think that was I think I would have done that trade. Getting CMC is huge. David Montgomery, what's his role look like when he comes back from injury? Jerome Ford, obviously we think he's going to be the guy moving forward, but Kareem Hunt could ascend. And then Chris Olave is a great piece, but I think that's a good trade. I would rather have CMC. And then I agree with Mike. You house the guy in that Kelsey Ramondre for Jefferson and Waller. That's solid. So,
I want to see what his depth looks like though, because he sacrificed a lot of depth. But from a start,
so running backs, he still has Kamara and Kyron Williams
and Kamara. Yeah. CMC, Kamara, and Kyron Williams with Devontae Adams and Justin Jefferson with Waller and Christian Kirk. That team's looking really good for starter wise. But yeah, Mike, it'd be interesting to see what the backups.
Yeah, because great, your starting lineup looks awesome. We're about to get into the part of the fantasy season that separates owners is what happens when you're dealing with injuries and bye weeks. Who knows what they're doing? And to be honest, a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned that I hate redraft fantasy football, and I had that whole spiel. I am now realizing this week why I love it, and I do love it, is because I am very confident in my ability to get rosters and hit on waiver wires and make these different moves that in season that matter. So, it's the love-hate roller coaster I'm on with fantasy football. After this week, Sunday night, you'll probably hear me hate it. And then, but right now I love how my teams are built, and you need to have that depth. So I wish we had you here live to talk about what your depth looked like. But anyways.
All right. Moving on. Thanks for your question, Jeb. Last question here. George Cook, half PPR. Do I flex Tank Dell, Pacheco, Christian Kirk, or Romeo Dobbs? What do you guys think?
This week,
not Pacheco at the Jets. That's a tough run defense. Avoid that.
Dobbs, if Watson's out. However, I don't know what Shane knows that I don't know. I think that Watson is playing, but you might know something that I don't there.
So the reports I saw yesterday were they felt more confident Aaron Jones playing than Christian Watson.
Okay.
But
okay.
I thought he was close to. Didn't he practice last week? Towards the end,
he did a little bit. Yeah, he did a little bit, but you'll know probably by even today. You'll have a good idea with it being a tomorrow night game, but Thursday night game.
Keep an eye on that. I would go Dobbs if he's out, but otherwise, to me, it's Christian Kirk. I know he was just on Truck's red light. I don't necessarily think I think he could do just fine in that game. Whereas Pacheco at Jets and then Tank might be the play that's probably what Truck's going to say. And I'm interested to see what you're going to say, Shane, but I think there's regression that is inevitably coming for them, that offense as a whole, but certainly Tank and Collins. So I don't know. I think Kirk is established in that offense, and I think it's probably Dobbs if Watson's out. Kirk is my answer.
Yeah, it's funny. You go with my red light, I go with your red light. I go with Tank Dell. If if Watson is out, I would rather go Dobbs. Just preface that, but if there's a chance that Watson is playing, I'd prefer Tank Dell. He's just ascending right now, and CJ Stroud's playing out of his mind. So yeah, there could be some regression, but Christian Kirk has a much tougher matchup against Atlanta. They're much better against the pass. So
I don't think that's a tougher matchup because of what TJ Watt's going to do with a rookie quarterback. You know, I think the Steelers defense is better than the Falcons in my mind.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens, obviously, but I don't know that the Falcons defense is like a surefire tougher matchup than the Steelers is.
And I haven't heard, is Zay Jones back for the Jags on Sunday or not?
That's still up in the air as well.
That would make a difference to me with Kirk also.
Yeah, that would make it a surefire move for me. But just in terms of regression, like I think honestly now is a good time to sell Tank Dell. If you could just like, yeah, he's ascending, but like, is he going to have those type of numbers all year? I would vote no.
Yeah, the guy who asked before who sold Tank Dell for Zay Flowers, perfect trade.
Yeah. 150%, you know, either of those guys, even Rashad White.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so that about does it for our episode and concludes our mailbag segment. Thank you for everyone that's asking questions. Stay tuned for future stuff. Again, follow us on Twitter at fantasy_trucker, at Kulz_sports, at S McCormick. Oh, and George, last real quick. Would you trade Tua and Aaron Jones for Saquon and Christian Watson and then stream Love at quarterback?
For me, no, I wouldn't make that deal right now. There's always an injury risk with Tua, but I'm riding him while I can in matchups, and this week's going to be a great high-scoring matchups. Aaron Jones and Watson both coming back from hamstring injury, so that's kind of a wash, but I feel like Aaron Jones could be, still great value, not that much down below if Saquon is battling this ankle injury for how long.
Yeah, the injury concern, I think I would look at what other quarterbacks were available to you. Like if Love is the best that it gets, then probably not. But if there's like a Love and Stafford combination that you can throw together, then that becomes interesting to me. So it depends on quarterback depth on your wire. And then your risk is Saquon's health, and same with Christian Watson. It's like if those two players get healthy and end up being the weapons that they should be on their teams, then I think you did an outstanding job with this trade. But single QB league, yeah. But what I'm saying is the depth on your waiver wire. Like if you could get Love and Stafford and then have multiple options that are pretty good, then I think it becomes worth it. But that's definitely a big factor. I mean, Tua is someone that you can count on every week right now. Right now, it looks like get as many Dolphins as you possibly can, right? Like if this offense ends up being this real, which it looks like it is, McDaniel's an absolute fucking mastermind. So I want every piece of the Dolphins offense that I can currently get. That being said, Saquon is also an absolute force. And if Christian Watson ends up being wide receiver 1 for the Packers, then you win that trade. It just matters if you have another option to Love that looks good. Stafford. Yeah. Like I would make that trade and go Love Stafford. I don't know what you guys think.
I don't think I make that trade still. Yeah, I don't. Seeing how important Aaron Jones was to that Packers offense before he got injured, I still want a piece of that moving forward. And Tua, like you said, you want as many Dolphins on your roster as possible, and Tua seems to be very, very legit. So yeah, I don't think I would take that trade.
Both players who are healthy, Saquon or Aaron Jones.
Saquon.
Yeah.
Okay,
But the gap's not as big as looking at Jordan Love, who Jordan Love's been great the first 3 weeks, but he's still only averaging 21 points a game.
Yeah,
so to Stafford and Love, completely understand. But you got to factor in Christian Watson into that. Is he your starter on your? Is he your wide receiver 2? Because then that gap may close entirely if you have a wide receiver 1 insert here, and then now you're starting Christian Watson every week, who ends up being a wide receiver 1 for a good offense that's playing for the division against say you swung and miss on Drake London or Mike Williams and you're looking to replace that guy. Again, this comes down to what does your roster look like every single time. It's all circumstantial, but there's definitely a world where that Watson would be my flex, already have Diggs and Waddle. So you have Waddle and Tua, then I become no on that trade, because now you have Tua and Waddle. How many weeks are those guys going to explode together? You're basically ensuring yourself a win. It's going to be more times than not. You're going to be in the playoffs. Then you need them to get hot in the playoffs and win. So that context matters, and the answer becomes no.
And I have a little bit of concern with Watson, guys. I've got him in a league, and
for sure,
this originally was just supposed to be a 1-week deal. And now we're coming into week 4. He's still not able to practice. Is this almost start to become a little bit like Cooper Kupp, where, it was assumed he was going to be fine after the whole preseason where he didn't. And that risk of re-injury happens,
Yeah. Well, that and chemistry is a real thing on the football field. Jordan Love has had the first 3 weeks to form a chemistry with Romeo Doubs, that we've seen, and Jaden Reed. So, yeah, I'm right there with you. And this is why context matters. If you guys are asking questions, please add as much context as possible to get more accurate responses. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, I think that about does it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted closing thoughts from me. Let's add in closing thoughts as well as a part of this show.
Great. Yeah.
Of every show.
Yeah.
Closing thoughts for me is we need to get the drop, us all 3 on a player drop. I don't know if the trucked segment should be in here, but we need to figure that out.
That's reactions. That's
we need
Monday
reactions. We need to get you just got trucked in the reactions, and then we need to figure out our shorts situation. But I think adding this element was outstanding. I would like this. I think we go live, get the questions. I mean, granted, this is already a long episode, but I think it's that good and has that much quality information that it doesn't matter the length. So very happy with the going live, getting questions, doing mailbag at the end.
Yeah, I think this would be a great episode to try to get timestamps in as well for people to kind of chop through and
great
find
point.
So I'll mark that down as well. All right, now that we workshop live, you guys got anything else you want to add?
I like that. I think that's good. Like, I think
I'm not saying
having these conversations live is a good thing. That it's only a value add for the roadies.
Absolutely. Again, check us out on YouTube. I know most of you are, but if you're listening on podcast form, it's youtube.com/sportsethos. Like, subscribe, hit the bell, get notified when we go live, hop in and ask us questions for us to answer at the end of the episode. And also follow the show on Twitter at Fantasy Roadshow. Check out the Substack. We have weekly articles coming out, thefantasyroadshow.substack.com. Other than that, boys,
I'm going to put up a poll that says, roadies, do we like LSU or Kansas State more?
All I'm going to say is the last time they played, K-State rolled them.
Come on. We're not even talking about that bullshit bowl game. What was it called? Do we even know what the name of the bowl was?
I was hoping maybe that you wouldn't remember that LSU didn't play any of their starters.
Yeah, did LSU, if it's not in the fucking, if it's not in one of the New Year's Day bowls games, LSU's starters are enjoying training for the NFL.
We will, if they happen to meet in a bowl game this year, we will have a very nice little roadshow bet going on.
I like it.
Roadshow, yeah, we're gonna something will happen there.
I like it.
That being said, I am hoping that we are in the playoff, which got to beat Alabama, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for joining and listening. We appreciate you guys. You guys are the best. Stay tuned for more stuff coming this week. And Shane, what should everybody do?
Buckle up.
The Jair Alexander.
Buckle up.